6 months ago, my father told me I was not good enough to carry on his legacy. Tonight, his voicemail was nothing but broken sobs and 3 words: I was wrong. I am sitting in my new apartment right now looking out at the city lights, and that voicemail is still saved on my phone. Not because I need to hear his pain, but because it reminds me of how far I have come. What happened in those 6 months? Let me take you back to where it all began. Before I tell you this story, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your city or country in the comments below. If you have ever felt overlooked by someone who should have seen your worth, hit that like button right now. And if you are new here, subscribe and turn on notifications so you do not miss stories like this. Now, let me take you back to the day I realized that blood does not always mean loyalty, and that sometimes walking away is the bravest thing you can do. My family built Morrison & Sons hardware supply from nothing. My grandfather, Grandpa Walt, started it 42 years ago with a small storefront and a dream. By the time I was born, it had grown into something real. 3 locations across Ohio, 28 employees, annual revenue of around $4 million. Our slogan was simple: building Columbus one nail at a time. That company was more than a business to me. It was our family's heartbeat. My father Richard took over when Grandpa Walt retired. He was 68 years old when everything fell apart. A traditional man. Strict. He believed in order and hierarchy, in the oldest son carrying the torch. My mother passed away when I was 14. Cancer. She was the softness in our home, and when she left something in, my father hardened. He buried himself in work, and I followed him there, hoping to stay close to him, in the only way he seemed to allow. Then there was Derek, my older brother, 4 years ahead of me, the firstborn. The one my father always looked at with something I could never quite name. Pride, maybe. Or hope. Derek was supposed to be the future of Morrison & Sons. But he had other plans. I started working at the store when I was 14, right after Mom died. I swept floors, stacked shelves, counted inventory until my eyes burned. My father never paid me. He said it would build character. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. So I kept showing up. Every summer, every weekend, every moment I could spare. When I went to Ohio State University, I studied business administration. I worked part-time at the store between classes. I graduated with a 3.8 GPA, and the day after graduation, I walked into my father's office and asked for a full-time position. He gave me the lowest rung on the ladder, warehouse associate. I did not complain. I knew I had to earn my place. Over the next 10 years, I learned everything: inventory management, supplier negotiations, customer relations. I taught myself things no one else wanted to learn. When I was 25, I proposed a new inventory system that cut our costs by 15%. When I was 28, I launched our online sales platform, which increased revenue by 30%. By 30, I had secured exclusive contracts with 3 major suppliers that our competitors would have killed for. I worked 60 to 70 hours a week. I did not take a vacation in 5 years. I poured everything I had into that company because I believed, truly believed, that one day my father would see me, that he would trust me with his legacy. Derek took a different path. After high school, he announced he did not want to work at the store. He told our father he needed to find his own way. So he moved to California to chase a dream of becoming a musician. 15 years in Los Angeles. No record deal, no breakthrough, just a string of failed projects and 2 divorces. He survived on the money our father wired him every month. Around $80,000 in credit card debt followed him like a shadow. He came home occasionally, usually when he needed something. My father always welcomed him with open arms, always made excuses. He is just finding himself, he would say. Give him time. I watched this for years. I saw the checks being sent. I heard the phone calls where Derek asked for more, and I stayed quiet. I told myself that actions speak louder than words. that my dedication would matter more than his birthright. I was wrong. The first crack appeared last autumn. Derek showed up in Columbus without warning. 15 years gone, and suddenly he was back. He said he was tired of Los Angeles. Said he wanted to reconnect with family. My father nearly wept with joy. That first night we had dinner at my father's house. The three of us around the old dining table. My father could not stop smiling. He asked Derek about his life in California, about his music, about everything. Derek talked for hours. He painted his failures as adventures, his debts as investments in his art. My father listened like he was hearing a hero's tale. I sat there with news of my own. That week I had closed the biggest deal in the company's history, a $500,000 contract with a major construction firm. I had worked on it for months. I wanted to tell my father. I wanted to see pride in his eyes just once. But every time I tried to speak, the conversation turned back to Derek. By the end of the night, I found myself alone in the kitchen washing dishes, while my father and Derek laughed in the living room. I told myself it was fine. He just missed him. It is understandable, but something in my chest felt hollow, and I could not name it yet. 2 weeks after Derek's return, my father called a meeting at the office. He announced that Derek would be joining the company. His title would be Special Advisor for Strategic Planning. His salary would be 20% higher than mine. I sat there stunned, but I kept my face neutral. I did not want to cause a scene. I told myself to give it time. Time only made things worse. Derek arrived late every morning and left early every afternoon. He knew nothing about hardware. Nothing about supply chains or customer relationships or the 1,000 small details that kept a business alive. He suggested we pivot to cryptocurrency. He proposed opening a branch in Miami, a city where we had no contacts and no market research. He could not tell the difference between pressure-treated lumber and standard pine. He called our most important supplier by the wrong name and offended them so badly that I spent 2 days repairing the relationship. He cost us a major client because he showed up to a meeting unprepared and acted like their concerns were beneath him. The employees started coming to me with worried eyes. "What is happening?" they asked. I had no answers. I just fixed what I could and stayed silent about the rest. I cleaned up Derek's messes and watched my father praise him for showing initiative. After 2 months, I could not stay quiet anymore. Our monthly revenue had dropped 12%. Real money, real damage. I went to my father's office and closed the door behind me. I brought spreadsheets. I brought data. I spoke calmly and respectfully. I suggested that Derek might need more training before making major decisions. I thought my father would listen to reason. He sat there for a long moment, staring at the papers I had laid before him. Then he looked up and his eyes were cold. "Claude," he said, "Derek is my firstborn. He has the right to be here. I built this company for my sons, both of you. But there is an order to things. Derek is older. He should lead." I tried again. "Dad, I have given everything to this company. 10 years. I know every supplier, every customer, every single part of how this works." I was not asking for credit. I was asking him to see the truth. He cut me off. "I know what you have done, but Derek is family too, and he needs this more than you do." Those words hit me like a punch to the chest. He needs this more than you do. As if my decade of sacrifice meant nothing. As if Derek's need erased my worth. I left that office understanding something I had refused to see before. It was never about merit. It was never about who worked harder or cared more. It was about birth order, about tradition, about a story my father had told himself long before I was born. 4 months after Derek joined the company, I found something I was not supposed to find. I was reviewing the monthly accounts, a task I had done 100 times before. There was an entry that did not match anything in our records. $50,000 transferred to a company I had never heard of. I traced it back. The company belonged to one of Derek's old friends from California. There was no invoice, no product received, no service rendered. Derek had used company money to pay off a personal debt. I confronted him in the warehouse, away from everyone else. I showed him the evidence. His face did not even change. "Mind your own business," he said. "Dad knows about this." I felt the ground shift beneath me. Dad approved $50,000 for nothing. Derek smiled. Not a real smile. Something else. "Dad trusts me. Unlike you, I do not need to prove anything." Then his voice dropped. "If you tell Dad, I will make sure he knows you have been undermining me since day one. Who do you think he will believe, his firstborn, or the jealous little brother?" I walked away without answering. I did not know what to do. I had spent my whole life believing that truth and hard work would win. Now I was not sure of anything. 1 week later, my father called another meeting. I walked into his office and found Derek already there, a strange smile on his face. On the desk sat a thick stack of documents. "I have made a decision about the future of Morrison and Sons," my father announced. He opened the folder. Inside were ownership transfer papers. "I am officially transferring full ownership to Derek. He will be CEO starting next month." The room spun. I heard myself speak, though my voice sounded far away. "Dad, what about everything I have done?" "You will continue as operations manager," he said, as if he were offering me a gift. "Same salary, same duties, but Derek will be in charge." This is how it should be. The eldest son carries on the family name. I took one last chance. "Dad, did you know about the $50,000 that was transferred too?" Derek interrupted smoothly. "I already told Dad about your accusations. He knows the truth." My father looked at me then, and what I saw in his eyes was not anger. It was disappointment. "I am disappointed you would stoop this low, Claude, making up lies about your brother." I could not breathe, could not think. Lies. He thought I was lying. My father stood up. "Pack your things from Derek's office. He will need the space. And Claude, if you cannot accept this, maybe it is best you find somewhere else to work. I love you, son, but I will not let you tear this family apart." I stood there for what felt like hours, but was probably only seconds. I looked at my father, the man I had spent my whole life trying to please. I looked at Derek, still wearing that satisfied smile, and something inside me finally broke. Not into pieces, into clarity. I nodded. I did not argue. I did not beg. I just turned and walked toward the door. At the threshold, I paused and looked back one last time. My father was already signing the transfer papers. He did not even glance up. I walked out of Morrison and Sons without a word. I did not say goodbye to anyone. I did not take anything except my car keys. I just left. That first night, I drove to my apartment and sat in the dark for hours. I did not cry. I did not scream. I just sat there feeling the weight of 10 years crumble into dust. My phone rang several times. My father's number. I let it go to voicemail every time. I could not bear to hear his voice explain why this was fair. The first week was the hardest. I barely got out of bed. I replayed every moment in my head, searching for where I had gone wrong. Was it something I said? Something I failed to do? I thought about all those late nights, all those weekends I gave up, all the times I chose the company over everything else. And for what to be told I was not enough. To watch someone who had never sacrificed anything take everything I had built. On the 7th day, I was lying in bed staring at the ceiling when my eyes landed on a photograph on my nightstand. My mother. Her smile. I remembered something she told me before she died. "Claude, you are stronger than you know. Do not ever let anyone make you forget that." I got out of bed. I showered for the first time in days. I made coffee. I opened my laptop. And I started to rebuild. The first thing I did was update my resume and LinkedIn profile. Within a week, I had 3 interview requests. That is when I realized something I had never fully appreciated. 10 years of experience in the hardware supply industry was valuable. People wanted what I knew. But the opportunity that changed everything came from an unexpected place. Harold Harrison, A supplier I had worked with for 7 years called me personally. He had heard I left Morrison and Sons. "Claude," he said, "I have worked with you for a long time. You are the reason I stayed with Morrison. Not your father, not your brother. You." He told me he was starting a new distribution company. He needed a partner who knew the business inside and out. Someone he could trust. I told him I would think about it. I thought about it for 3 days. Then I called him back and said 2 words: "I am in." I invested $87,000 of my savings. Everything I had. We named the company Horizon Building Supply. For the first few months, my kitchen table was my office. I made calls from morning until night. I reached out to every contact I had built over the past decade. Former clients, contractors, suppliers who remembered my name, and they responded. Not because of Morrison and Sons, because of me. They remembered the guy who showed up early and stayed late, the guy who solved problems instead of creating them, the guy who actually cared. One by one, they started placing orders with Horizon. By the 3rd month, we had enough business to rent a small office. By the 4th month, we had 5 employees. By the 5th month, our revenue exceeded projections by 40%. I signed a contract with the 3rd largest construction company in Ohio. A local business magazine wrote an article about us, calling Horizon a startup that was changing the hardware supply industry. For the first time in my life, I was building something that no one could take away from me. Meanwhile, I heard things about Morrison and Sons. Former employees reached out to me. Suppliers who had cut ties with the company shared what they knew. The picture they painted was grim. In the first 2 months after I left, Derek reorganized the entire operation. He fired 8 long-term employees to cut costs. He switched to cheaper suppliers whose products were inferior. Customers started complaining about quality. In months 3 and 4, the problems multiplied. Major contractors canceled their accounts. The inventory system I had built was dismantled and replaced with something that did not work, leading to constant shortages and delays. Revenue dropped by 35%. By month 5, things were falling apart. A key supplier refused to continue working with Morrison because of unpaid invoices. Derek borrowed money from my father's personal accounts to cover the losses. Employees quit in waves, unable to tolerate the chaos. My father, who had planned to retire, was forced to come back to the office every day just to keep the doors open. When I heard all this, I expected to feel vindicated. I expected satisfaction. But all I felt was sadness. Sad for the company my grandfather built. Sad for the employees who lost their jobs. Sad for my father, who was watching his legacy crumble because he trusted the wrong son. The voicemail came on a Tuesday evening in month 6. I was in my new office at Horizon reviewing a contract when my phone buzzed. My father's number. I let it ring. A minute later, the notification appeared. 1 new voicemail. I pressed play. His voice was barely recognizable. Broken. Trembling. He told me Derek had nearly destroyed the company. $200,000 in debt to the bank. They might have to sell. He said he had been blind. He said he was sorry. And then at the very end, his voice cracked completely. 3 words choked with tears. I was wrong. I listened to that message 3 times. I sat in silence for a long while. I did not feel triumph. I did not feel anger. I felt something I did not expect. Peace. I waited 2 days before calling him back. When I did not yell. I did not remind him of everything he had done. I just asked, "How are you, Dad?" He broke down. He apologized over and over. He begged me to come back and save the company. I said, "I forgive you, Dad. I forgave you a long time ago. But I cannot go back. That chapter is closed." He asked why. I told him the truth. I have built something of my own now, something that belongs to me, something that no one can take away. I did not abandon him completely. I introduced him to a business partner who was willing to buy Morrison and Sons at a fair price. The company my grandfather started would survive, even if it no longer carried our name. That was enough for me. My relationship with my father is different now. We see each other once a month for dinner. We do not talk about business. We talk about simple things. His health, the weather, memories of my mother. He sold the big family house and moved into a small condominium. He seems quieter now. Smaller somehow, but also more at peace in his own way. As for Derek, my father finally cut him off. No more money, no more excuses. Derek left Columbus, and no one knows where he went. I do not hate him. I do not wish him harm. I simply do not need him in my life anymore. That is not anger. That is a boundary. The healing did not happen overnight. For months after I walked away from Morrison and Sons, I carried the wound with me. Some nights I still woke up feeling the sting of my father's words. Pack your things. Find somewhere else. I had to learn slowly that my value was never determined by his approval. I started therapy. I started running every morning, something I never had time for before. I learned to cook real meals instead of eating fast food at my desk. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected. I took my first vacation in 5 years a week on the Oregon coast, where I did nothing but walk on the beach and breathe. I met someone too. Her name is Emma. She owns a small coffee shop downtown. What drew me to her was not her looks or her charm, though she has both. It was the way she talked about building her business from nothing. She understood what it meant to create something with your own hands, to bet on yourself when no one else would. Today, Horizon Building Supply has 15 employees and 2 locations. Our first-year revenue reached $2.1 million. We were nominated for Small Business of the Year by the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. I built that, not because someone gave it to me, because I earned it. I still have my father's voicemail saved on my phone, not as a trophy, not as proof of his failure. I keep it as a reminder of my freedom. A reminder that I survived the worst rejection of my life and came out stronger. I used to think my worth was measured by what my father thought of me, by how much I sacrificed, by how hard I worked to earn a place in his heart. Now I understand something different. My worth was never his to give, and it was never his to take away. If you are watching this and you have ever felt invisible to someone who should have seen you, I want you to know something. Their blindness is not your failure. And walking away is not giving up. Sometimes it is the only way to finally find yourself. I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to walk away from someone you loved in order to protect your own future? What did that journey look like for you? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share it with someone who might need to hear it. Subscribe to this channel if you want more stories about resilience, growth, and finding your own path. Thank you for being here with me today. I hope you carry this with you. You are enough. You have always been enough. And sometimes the people who should love us the most are the ones who teach us the hardest lessons. But those lessons do not define us. What we do next does. Take care of yourself. And remember, walking away is not losing. It is finally choosing yourself.